Welcome to APCUG's Wednesday workshop, where we get together in the middle of the week to learn more about technology. We continue with our theme of all things Google, and we're going to talk about Google Drive. Our presenter today, we're glad to have Dale Harrington. Dale enjoys helping seniors and young whippersnappers productively use and enjoy computers and other forms of technology. Since 1994, Dale has been a member of the board of directors for the Mile High Computer Resource Organization, also known as Micro. He has presented numerous topics at Micro and other user groups in the Denver area. He also developed course material for and taught introductory computer courses to the seniors at local computer centers. From 1966 until his retirement in '86, Dale was in the United States Air Force, where he performed various tasks, including operating and maintaining instrumental systems equipment. Dale also worked for Computers in Ministry, providing technical support to local ministers in network support, internet connectivity, servers, email services, end-user workstations, and related peripheral hardware and software systems. Today, he is going to clear up the skies around the Google Cloud called Google Drive. It's my pleasure to turn things over to Dale.
Okay, thank you very much, John. I'm not sure I can live up to that introduction. So let's just hope I can. So today, this morning, this afternoon, depending on where you are in the world, I know many of you come from around the globe. We're going to talk about Google Drive. What is it? It's a cloud storage service, of course, owned and operated by Google. It allows us to store our files in the cloud, synchronize files across devices, and share files. If you have a Google account, you already have Google Drive. Simply signing up for the basic free account, you get 15 gigabytes of free storage. Google also uses the Drive to store Google Photos, your Gmail attachments, and Google Workspace documents, which can take up a lot of space depending on how busy you are. If you're using more, or you think you're going to use more than the 15 gigabytes, you can upgrade to larger storage plans. 100 gigabytes, $1.99 a month, or $19.99 a year. 200 gigabytes is $2.99 a month, or $29.99 a year, and 2 terabytes, $9.99 a month, or $99.99 per year. With those paid plans, you get an additional level of tech support and other benefits. Those plans change fairly frequently, so I suggest if you're interested in them, you look at them and read the conditions. This is an example of their pricing, and you can find that on the Google site. The main purpose of Google Drive is to store your files and synchronize them to your computer, and you could use the site to upload files, edit them online if you're going to use one of the Google editing suites like their Google Docs and Google Sheets and things like that. If you install the desktop client, you can also have files in certain folders synchronizing continuously as you work on them. It also has expanded its capability in recent years to allow you to sync any folder on your Google Drive to their servers. So it functions as a rudimentary backup service. It doesn't have all the functionality of a dedicated backup service, though. It doesn't just help you store your files, but works as sort of a hub for all your Google activity. Drive works with Google's entire ecosystem of apps, including the workspace. You can use it to create doc files, forms, Google Sheets, or Google Slides. And you can also share your files from Google Drive and control the permissions for who you allow to share them. How do you use Google Drive? First, you have to have a Google account, which most of us do, I believe. And then there are several ways to access. You can just go to the Google Drive website, or just go to Google and click on the menu, the meatball, if you will, and go to Drive. They have a desktop client, which is their backup and sync client, and they also have mobile app. So how to use it? You go to drive.google.com in your browser, and once you get there, you're going to find the interface is fairly intuitive. On the right, you'll see a picture of it. It's pretty clean interface. It's got a lot of white space, so you can spot things pretty quickly, I've found. It doesn't take much to learn it. The left side of the screen is home to what I would call a navigation bar. That's where you can access Drive's various tabs. These tabs organize your files by various categories. The My Drive tab houses all your cloud files. This is also where the Drive folder on your computer gets synced. If you synced any other folders from your hard drive to the cloud using the Google Backup and Sync, you can find those in the Computers tab. Meanwhile, the Shared with Me tab keeps all the files that other people have shared with you. These are the main tabs. These tabs have their own folder structure, just like your computer has a file structure. They have a similar structure. You can create subfolders to organize things. Again, the My Drive tab mirrors the structure of your computer's drive folder. So once you set up that connection between your computer and Google Drive, anything you do on your computer is synchronized up to Google Drive in the My Drive category. And again, the folders in the Computers tab will have the same structure as the folders, can't speak this morning, as the folders on your hard drive that you synchronized. There are other tabs. You can find recently accessed files in the Recent tab. Starred is where you can find any files you've favorited or marked as a favorite for quick access. If you want to recover a deleted file, the Trash tab keeps all the files that you deleted for 30 days. The central area of the browser interface is where you can see all your files and folders. You can drag and drop items to move them around, and you can right-click on an item to open its menu of options. My Drive has an extra area at the top called Quick Access, where your frequently used files. You'll find that behavior in the Quick Access, I have found, is not consistent depending on the things you've done in the past. At the top of the screen, there is a search bar that lets you look for files by name. When you click on a Drive file or folder, several icons appear in the area below the search bar. These icons let you do things like sharing, renaming, deleting, or moving the item you've selected. These same options and more can be found in the right-click menu. So this is a sample of that area that pops up. In this case, you see picture 1 has been selected, and these are those shortcuts to sharing, etc. The right-hand side of the screen has a special toolbar with shortcuts to either Google's own apps, or you can even add third-party apps, sort of like extensions that work with Google. Now comes the important part, how to interact with Drive files. First, you must, of course, have a file up on the drive. You have to upload something first before you can work on it. To upload files, you can click on the new button and then select the file or folder you want to upload. An easier method is simply drag and drop. Most of us, I think, would probably use drag and drop. And as soon as you drag and drop something onto a folder on Google Drive, you will see it uploading. If it's a large file, and depending on your upload speed of your internet service, it might take a while. And again, this is what that menu looks like right here. These are the choices. You'll also notice you have Google Docs, Google Sheets, and Google Slides, and more. You can directly open the Google Docs application and start writing a letter or whatever, and then immediately save it to Google Drive. You don't have to open Google Docs separately. Now that you have files in the cloud, you can right-click on them or use the icons at the top of the screen to interact with them. Probably the most important of these options that most of us are going to use are the two sharing options. So when you right-click, for example, here, Book has been right-clicked on, and you'll see the two shareable options, share or get shareable link. You also have a lot of other options. You'll notice one thing I'm going to point out at this point, you can manage versions. It keeps track of edits. So if you make a lot of changes to a document, you can go back in and look at the different versions. Maybe you realize you need to go back to a previous version. You can also, of course, make a copy, download. You can view the details of the file, or of course, delete it. First option is the simpler of the two. It's called Get Shareable Link, and that's my personal opinion, because then it's just going to give you a link that you can email to someone, and then they can access that file with the permissions you've given them. The second sharing option is the share option, which works pretty well, except when you go to share it with people, it will let you share with people that are in your address book. You may have trouble sometimes if you want to share with somebody that's not in your address book. So that would look like this. Once you open a share with, you can, this is the file. This is the permission you've given that person, in this case, viewer, which means they can only view it. You can give them other levels of permission where they can edit the file also. And you know, right down here, it gives you the information icon that says anybody that views this file can see comments and suggestions. And at the end, I'll go ahead and go back and actually do a quick demo of these things so you'll all see how to get there. And like Rob, my presentation is short, but I think a lot shorter than his. But I hope to step out and go into a demo that would be a little bit longer and allow for you to begin formulating questions as we go along. So this is the main interface of Google Drive. You'll notice along the left is this thing I talked about called My Drive. In this case, all these folders are stored in My Drive. In the case of this particular account, this is our Computer Club account, Micro. They do not synchronize to my computer because my computer uses my personal account to synchronize. However, if I was using my personal account, all these folders and all the files in them would be synchronized between here and my account. This, where it says computers, when you expand this, if you have other computers connected to My Drive, you would see those other computers. So if you have a laptop that you want to sort of keep in sync with your desktop, this is where you would do it. And I've tried it in the past, and it does work pretty well. If you want to see what folders have been shared with you, you come over here and click on this. And you'll notice I have one folder that has been shared from another computer group called dog. The recent tab brings up in order, date order, all the recent things I've worked on. Starred is what would be considered favorites. And of course, trash, you'll notice they are deleted after 30 days. Now, if you come in here and empty the trash, be careful because that's no longer available. It's not recoverable once you delete it from here. Also, you'll notice down at the bottom, this tells you how much storage you are using and how much you have available total. For some of us that have Gmail accounts from a long time ago, we have more than the 15 gigabytes because they had a bunch of promotions. If you want to buy storage, this is where you buy the storage right here. Now, let me go up and show you what I was talking about. When you click on something, let's say I click on this file, you'll notice up here are those options. Share, get the link. When you get the link, then you can email that link to someone. You'll notice here, this is preview. I could preview that file. Of course, trash. And other options, I can add a shortcut to this file on my drive. I can move it to another folder. I could star it, rename it, of course, view details. And sometimes this is interesting. A lot of us don't sometimes dig through the menus, but if you have a file on Google Drive and you're wondering about it, click on the view details and you'll notice it'll give you quite a bit of information over here, like the last time it was modified, when it was created, and download permissions. And again, if I shared this file, it would mean that if I shared it with people with viewer permission, that allows them to download it. The location is the folder in which it's stored. And of course, size, the type, and here would be how I would manage access to it in the sharing permissions. You get this exact same information when you right-click. I'm a real fan of right-clicking on things. If you can't figure out what to do with something, if you right-click on it, you almost always get a menu. And Google maintained that structure in Google Drive. Now, some of the other things, if you want to create a new folder, you decide where you want to create that new folder. In this case, let's say new drive, my drive. I click new folder. I also mentioned that you could also click new to upload a file. You'll notice here you can even upload a folder from your computer. Or again, you can start with a blank Google Docs document, sheets, slides, and the more you'll notice Google Drawings, you can start a new Google My Map. So you can begin a lot of things from Google Drive. And then again, if you want to connect more Google apps, you can come down here and add them. So the one thing about Google Drive being considered kind of a hub, it really is. You can do a lot of work from here. If you want to create a new folder, you click on that, and of course you name it. So now, there's that folder. You'll notice if you want to drag and drop files, you just go to File Manager and drag a file here, and it'll upload it pretty quickly depending on the size. Now, pardon me while I check my notes because this old brain gets confused sometimes. I know some of you might relate to that. Most of you are younger than I am, probably. Looks like a really young crowd out there. Here it is. Okay, good. So let's say I right-click on a folder you get a different set of options than you do when you right click on a file. You can search within that folder. One thing, if you like to organize things by color, you can change the color of that folder so that now it's red or whatever color you choose. And of course, you can rename it, get a link to it. And the ability to get a link to a folder, if you have a folder with several videos in it, and you can't email those videos to a friend because they're too large, you can very quickly get a link to that folder, and you can decide what kind of access that link is going to come with. So it can be, when it says only people with access can open the link, that means people have to have a Gmail account. Took me a while to figure that out. And then anyone with the link you can send to people with other than Gmail addresses. At first, I thought this meant they had to be in our account or in our domain, but that's not what it means. So when you copy this link, it's going to carry this restriction. So again, if you're sending to someone outside of Gmail, click that one. You'll also notice you have add people in groups. This is where it looks through your contacts folder to figure out who you're going to send it to. And again, in the share box, even though you think, well, what am I doing here? I thought when I clicked on this, I would get more settings. In reality, it just takes me back to this. So this is the settings. Now, when I'm done, I copy the link. Now I can embed that in an email, but when I'm done here, it goes away. So click the copy link first so you can paste it into an email. Now, one more thing, and then I'll open it up to questions. You'll notice along the right-hand side, there's a column here, calendar, keep, tasks, and contacts. These are shortcuts to this account's calendar. So this would be the micro calendar, the micro keep app, the tasks, and the contacts. One thing you'll notice that you don't see over here, you cannot go from Google Drive over here directly to Gmail. I'm not sure why. To me, it's confusing. You'll also notice when I click on Drive up here, how it reorders my left-hand column. So with that, I'm going to open it up for questions.
If I have more than one Google account, is there some way for me to copy multiple files from one Google account to another as a group instead of one file at a time? The same with Gmail messages.
So the question is, if I understand it, you want to move multiple files from one Gmail account to another?
Yeah, it says if I have more than one Google account, so I would say yes, copy multiple files from one account to the other account.
The only way I can think of to do that would be to embed them in an email. Just get a shareable link and embed them in an email. The problem is, if you do that, you have to pay attention to the permissions you're giving that other person. Or you could put them all in one folder and share that folder with the other account. I have not found a simple way to actually just simply copy from one account to another.
Okay.
But I haven't tried.
Good enough. What is keep below the calendar icon on your last screen used for?
That one there? Wait a minute, I'm not sharing. Can I share again?
Absolutely.
Keep is a Google app that is similar to a to-do, like a memos to yourself. You can put grocery lists in there. You can any kind of note. It's sort of like a note keeping app. So Keep will run on your Android phone if you have an Android phone. So you can, on your Android phone, open up your Keep app and have your grocery list, have your memos, whatever you need. Does that answer it?
Yeah, so theoretically, like you have their topics for 2022, I use Edge's collections, but if you were putting things together for your March meeting for either micro or dog, you could accumulate the information there for websites you visited, and then it's in one-stop shopping. When you're ready to put your meeting together, everything is right there.
Yeah, you can do that.
I think the equivalency is to similar to Evernote or
Right, but that's what
Microsoft.
Yes, it
collection.
is. Yeah. It is very similar.
Okay.
And this, I just opened Keep directly from there. So you can see this is what Keep looks like. So it's just sort of a note-taking app. I think is the best way to describe it.
And you can use it for a to-do list.
Yep. Grocery list, to-do list. And when you're done with an item, you just check the checkbox and that shows that it's done.
Yeah. And Google would love you to use that and keep you in the Google ecosystem.
Exactly. Exactly. And you don't have to pay for it.
Yeah, that is true. We have a comment on how you have two personal, like you have a micro Gmail account and a dog Gmail account, and if perhaps you could share the directory he sent folder from one account to the other one, and then that's the way you could move a whole folder of documents at the same time.
Yeah, in other words, I would share a folder. So for example, suppose I want to share the, let's say the PR folder. I would right click. And again, I don't use the share because it's kind of limited to sharing with people in your address book. So I use get the link. And then I decide, I want restrictions. So I'm going to say any with when the link can view it. Because if you don't do that and you send it to a non-Gmail account, they can't get into it. Then you copy the link. And at that point, I would need to go to Gmail to send that. So I'm going to send that to just a fake person, but you would embed that link. There's the link to that folder. Right there. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah. Again, I have not figured out a way to copy something from one account to another, but as I usually do in most of my presentations, I've never been bashful about attempting a live demo and failing.
These are warts and all, Dale. What can I tell you?
So you'll notice one thing you can't do with the folder. What do you see that you can't do with this folder? You cannot copy it.
Oh, but you can share it.
So again,
Oh,
I suspect the only way to do this, and I'm almost positive this is true, is get the link, share it, that would allow them to download it, or you could download it and email it to them. But if it's too big, your email service may not let it pass. So I've just never tried to copy from one to the other. If I attempted to drag, yep, you can't do that either. So you'll notice I'm not afraid to experiment.
You could move it, but then it's not in its original place anymore.
Yeah.
Is that-
Well, if you move it, you can't move it to another account. You can only move it within your own account.
Okay.
So I think to share the link was probably be the best way, and then the other person can download it from there.
Dale,
Any-
what if you split your screen and log into the other account and see if you can drag the folder from that account to the other account?
Hang on one second. I am logged into both at the moment. So let's see if that works. Nope. You can only move it around within the account. So, and that's what I suspected. I've never really tried it. What I've done is when I want to let another account use a folder, I just share the link, give them permission to download it. That makes sense?
Yep.
I agree.
And if you have a large file, a large video, and you do use Gmail, and you try to attach it to your Gmail to send to somebody, it says, oh, I'm so sorry, we can't do that for you, but we will give you a link. Put it in and it pops up in your Gmail, the body of your message, and you send it off, and the person who receives it clicks on the link of that huge video that you tried to send them, and there it is right in front of their very eyes.
Right. Yeah, the sharing is what works best if you have large files to email to people.
Mm-hmm. Cool. The way APCUG uses their Drive folder is back in the day for the newsletter contest, everybody sent 4 copies of their newsletter to me. Same thing with the Southwest Tech Conference in San Diego. And then I, in turn, would cherry pick them and send 1 copy each entry to 3 judges. So
Yeah.
you can imagine the time, you can manage the cost to the group for postage, and for APCUG to send all this out, and they got the hard copies. Now, they're PDFs, they're online. We either get the link to it or we get PDF emailed to us, and we just let the judges, we share the folder of the website or digital photo or newsletter. We share it with the judges, and they can go into the shared drive and they can download them if they would like to, or they can just look at them. So the advent of Drive for APCUG is way cool. John will download this video to his computer in Ohio. It will end up in our APCUG shared folder, and he will let me know that it's there. I download it to my computer in SoCal, and we go from there. It works wonderfully for us as an organization, and we can, we have we have a great many of our historical documents, minutes, blah, blah, kind of stuff in there. So that's where the history and the backstory of what APCUG does is in the shared drive, because we found, when David Williams unexpectedly left us, we were up a creek without a paddle. And there's still stuff that John and I have absolutely no clue where things are, because he didn't share it with us. So we share as much as we possibly can in Drive. So you might want to think about that for your organization. So when people leave, it's not on their hard drives that you can no longer get to. Does the Windows desktop client allow you to access more than one Gmail Drive account on the same desktop?
Not that I'm aware of. I looked at that Not very, well, about a year ago, I looked at it, and as far as I can tell, no. It will only work with a single account.
And and Bill and I had this discussion last night. I have all my Gmail accounts on my browser bar. And I just click on one to the other as I'm checking my email.
Yeah, I just open them all in one window, so to speak, or one browser instance.
Yeah, I like my stuff all separated.
One thing about that, Judy, before we leave that, for anybody that wants to have multiple instances of Gmail accounts open, if you use the Chrome browser, you'll notice this is a Chrome browser I'm using. If you click on the account picture, your account picture, and you have other Gmail accounts that you have access to and you've saved the password, all you have to do is click on it and you'll notice now here's my personal Gmail drive. So it'll open a separate tab every time you want to do that.
And
So,
in the last few months, Gmail has gotten very adept at signing you out if they think you've been in that account too long. So you do have to remember your passwords, or preferably use a password manager, because I probably have a minimum of 10 Gmail accounts for stuff affiliated with APCUG, you know, and all that good kind of stuff, plus my personal one, plus my club's account. So that's a good place to have everything organized.
Yeah.
All righty. Firefox will also allow multiple Gmail accounts at the same time, as will Edge. So I think we have it all covered there. And
right.
if you stop sharing, I can see if there are people with their hands raised. Robert, you're on.
Thank you. My question concerns syncing and streaming. I use desktop drive for my Mac, and I check the box that says I want to stream and not mirror, because I don't want everything on my hard drive on my Mac. And resulting, I get on my Mac in the Finder window, I get all my files there with little clouds in them. And my understanding is that what that means is that if I want access to them, I click on them. Now, my question to you is this: when I make changes, does it matter if I make the change from my hard drive, or should I click on those little files with the cloud? Because once I click on them with the cloud disappears, I make changes, and then I'm assuming that it's now sitting on my hard drive. I'm just not understanding the distinction. If I'm syncing a folder, but yet saying I want it streamed only, does it matter where I access the file from?
You know, I'm not familiar with the stream only function. I haven't used that. And I'm also not familiar with Mac, so I'm not sure if that's a feature that only functions on Macs. But, you know, one way you could probably test that by creating a dummy file, set it up, you know, in a streaming function, and then see what happens when you edit it on one side versus the other, and see if the edits are carried across.
But for syncing generally, is it your advice that once you make a change, it's going to be in both places, and that you can access the new changed file from anywhere on any computer?
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
Keep in mind, if it's something is synchronizing and you're online, that synchronization is virtually instantaneous between both areas. So that's why I mentioned that Google's backup and sync is not a true backup. It's strictly a sync. And that means if you make a mistake on your desktop, that's propagated to the cloud immediately.
Okay, thank you.
So,
Pierre.
Yes, I have several comments on things that have been said and things I'd like to add some answers, and then I have my own question. First of all, about a year ago, sometimes last year, I forget exactly when, Google changed from backup and sync to Google Drive. They went back to the name Google Drive. Why did they do that? I don't know, because that was the original name before it became backup and sync. But anyway, I was forced back then to upgrade from backup and sync to Google Drive. So just want to make sure that people don't get confused by that. Backup and sync is gone, supposedly anyway. In terms of sharing, when you have the restricted option, Dale mentioned that it's only if you are logged in or if the users you want to share with are logged in to a Gmail account. Yes, that's true. However, it is based on the domain. You could have a Google account that's not at gmail.com, and that would be restricted to that domain if you want to share. So there's some subtleties here. Regarding the question from Robert about streaming, once you click on a file to do something, if it's not downloaded and you see the cloud icon, it's going to download that file to your computer so you can do whatever you please. Whether you want it to disappear from your local storage, I am not sure if that's possible, but it might be something to look into if you right-click on the file to remove the local copy. It would still be there in the cloud, obviously, but there might be a way to remove the local copy if you want to save the local space. Dale also mentioned that he has an old account and that's why he has 17 gigabyte, not 15. Some of my Google accounts are 18 years old and I still have only 15.
Oh,
So I'm not sure how you got 17, but just mentioning that.
Yeah, they had promotions that they were offering back then. You had to sign up for them.
Yeah, I
Okay.
I have more storage. I'm one of those people that Dale mentioned. I have more than 15.
Well, I have 30 on other accounts, but that's because it's a Google for nonprofit. I forgot what they call it. They kept changing the name. But anyway, that's another story. Accessing multiple accounts on the desktop app, someone said no, and that's incorrect. It is doable. You can access, I think, up to 4, possibly 5. I can't remember. And that brings my comment to the other question about copying files between accounts. The best way that I have found is to use the app, the Google Drive app on your computer, connect to the 2 accounts that you want to copy from and to, and do it within File Explorer if you're on Windows, or Finder if you're on a Mac. However, you have to let it sync. It will seem like it's doing it in a split second, but in the background, it's actually doing the synchronization. And that could take a while depending on how big the files are. So it's doable. The big advantage of doing it that way is that you will maintain the the timestamp on the file. So again, copying between accounts, sharing does not change the ownership. If you think that because you have access to the file, you have your own copy, If the owner deletes the file, the shared copy is also gone. So you got to watch out. You can't use that to copy a file, okay? Or if you make your own copy, then fine. But again, making your own copy, you're losing the timestamp. Okay, now for my own question, I have noticed, unfortunately, that the Google file system does not resemble any file system that I've ever seen over my IT career. You rename a file and it changes the timestamps. That drives me absolutely crazy. However, you add a file to a folder and it does not update the timestamp of the folder. Go figure. I was wondering whether anyone has found a way to change the timestamp of a Google file?
I guess not.
I have found scripts to do it that I don't understand, so I haven't used them. It seems rather convoluted, which doesn't surprise me because of the way Google has implemented it, but the renaming of file and the timestamp changes, that really drives me off the wall.
Somebody suggested I would try pressing F5,
To accomplish what?
what you just talked about.
No, that would, F5 just refreshes your browser window.
Okay,
Pierre, one of the things I would surmise, because the Google file system is not an actual file system, what you are using is a massive database.
Right.
And that's why they call them folders. They're not folders. They're just basically labels like they do
Yes.
in Gmail.
Yes, I understand what you're saying, yes.
So that's probably why you don't get the file date behavior you would expect from a file system.
That makes sense, yes, thank
Because,
you.
you know, every time you touch a database, the database file date is updated. So that might be an internal programming decision they made.
Yes, no, that makes sense. Thank you for that explanation. I guess I've covered what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you for those hints.
Sure.
Anne Marie.
Hello.
Yeah.
I have a comment and I have a question. My comment is that I use Google Keep in the Google Calendar to make notes on certain days. When I make an entry on a calendar and I want to make a big note that goes with that day, I use Google Keep, and it keeps the note on the side. And if you click on that note, then it'll take you directly to the day on the calendar where you entered it. It's a very neat little thing. I don't know if anybody else does that, or is it just me? And now my question is to Dale. I have on my drive, I have photos, and I don't know how they got there. There's not that many because most of my photos are in Google Drive, in Google Photos. And I would like to transfer those photos over from the drive to my Google Photos. Do I have to download them first and then import them into Google Photos from my computer?
That's an excellent question. I have not run across that. But Judy, if it's okay, I'm going to share my screen again.
By all means. Just so it doesn't.
So what Anne Marie is talking about, let me go over here and open the Photos app. So I'm running Photos side by side with Google Drive. And although I mentioned earlier that your photos are stored in Google Drive, you can't get to them from the Google Drive side. You can only get to them from the Google Photos online app. So, which to me is kind of I don't know, a little bit of a frustration. You're using this shared storage space, but you have to use two different ways to get there. So I don't know if you can.
I open my Google Drive and there's the photos. And
Well,
they're individual photos.
But they're not the same photos that are over in your Photos app, right?
No, and I want to get them over to be.
They may be a holdover from when you added them to my drive back in the old days, so to speak.
I think so. Mhm.
Yeah, I'm just not sure, to be honest with you, if there's a simple way other than downloading them to your local hard drive and then re-uploading them to Photos.
Yeah, I think that's what I'll have to do.
Yeah.
It's not that many. Most of them are in the folders and already in the Google Photos. So
Yeah, I would, and before they, everybody's aware that recently, as well, last year, they changed the way your storage was allocated. At one point, Google Photos was not eating into your Google Drive storage limits. But starting, I think it was May of last year, if I'm remembering correctly, now everything in your entire Google ecosystem counts against this total storage amount. Your email attachments, your photos. I put a bunch of photos up for our club site before that restriction went into play. So I've got a lot more stuff here. If it was eating up the storage space, I'd be out of room by now. So,
All right, thank you.
but yeah, I would just download them and re-upload them. Yeah.
But I'll have to do. Thanks a lot.
Anne Marie, would
Yeah.
you either put it in the chat box, your tip about keeping calendar, or send it to me after your meeting today so I can share it?
I will. I'll put it in the chat box. Okay.
John, your turn.
You mean Jack?
Oh,
No. Oh, okay. I guess I'm on.
Oh, okay.
yeah, it says John.
Yeah, I'm John.
Yeah, you're next in line.
Okay, a lot of what I was going to ask has been covered. However, how is it that I can have certain folders? I have another computer, it doesn't have very much storage, and I don't want to have the main, I want to have access, but I'd like to leave everything in the cloud other than when I want to work on one. But where is the setting for that on the second computer?
Just don't install the desktop client.
Will I still then be able to get to the documents, see them and get to them?
Yeah, with a web browser.
Okay, I understand what you're saying. Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Steve Parker.
Is there a way to prevent Google from creating a zip file when you download multiple files from your Google Drive?
That I don't think you can. I think that's the way they decided to.
Yeah, because on a PC, it's no big deal, but it's a real pain in the butt on an iPhone.
Yeah, I can understand that.
I think the only way to avoid the zip file is to download the files individually, unfortunately.
Well, it's interesting to hear the comments that and things that you can't do, and yet Google wants you to choose them as your be all end all instead of Microsoft or Apple. And hey, they're going to have to step up to the plate with some of the, things you guys are coming up with for people to completely do that. Joel.
I'm primarily a Linux desktop user, particularly Fedora Linux. And I had sort of dismissed the Google Drive because they did not have a client for the Linux desktop. And I just went out this morning and did a search, and there still is not one at Google, but it turns out it is built in to Fedora Linux. If you are using the GNOME desktop and download or have by default installed a package for GNOME online accounts, you can go into settings, define an online account for your Gmail account, tell it you want to look at files for it, and then you go to the Nautilus file browser, and by gosh, your Gmail account is in your navigation bar. And you click on it and mount it, and then you can access all the files in it and presumably drag and drop to and from it. Now, I suspect that it works like it does if you're connecting with a remote files SFTP count, which means that the files all reside at the remote location, and all you see is the directory contents, not the files themselves. So if you click on it, it'll probably download at that point. But what that means is if you define multiple Gmail accounts, you can mount multiple ones at the same time in different windows and probably drag and drop directories from one to the other. Under the covers, it will probably download that entire directory and move it up to the other one, but it may be possible to do that. I just haven't had time to experiment yet.
Oh, after you're finished experimenting, perhaps you'd like to do that at a third Wednesday of the month Linux workshop. John Kennedy would like you to do that for sure. So just get in touch with either one of us and let us know which month you would like to do. Jack, you're on.
Yeah, thank you. Dale, you mentioned earlier in your presentation that Google does all kinds of things for backup and storage of Google files and docs and etc. But what about other things on your computer? Does the program have, the Google Drive have the ability to organize non-Google documents and photos and etc. that's not part of the Google Drive?
Let me make sure I understand what you're asking. Are you talking about other files on your local computer?
Yes, other things that may be on your hard drive that maybe you would like organized within Google Drive that were not originally part of a Google Drive or a picture file or something that was originally handled in Google, but maybe you'd like to move it there.
You can, if you download the desktop client and it'll set up a Google Drive in your folder structure. You can also, in the desktop version of Google Drive, in the backup section, tell it what folders you want to keep synchronized or backed up, and it'll store them up in the cloud. They don't have to be Google products. They can be Word documents, Excel documents, things like that. So the two will mirror each other. I think, is that what you're asking?
Yeah, that, in other words, I guess you can keep, from your answer, you can keep your original file management and maybe just create a link to the Google app that will allow you to maybe conveniently organize and store things in your Google Drive. You're not necessarily moving it, but you're creating a link where you can manage it using the Google resource and still maintain the original source location on your hard drive, if that makes sense.
Yeah, once you set up the Google, what used to be called backup and sync, once you set that up, you are synchronizing things. So if you change it in one location, it's automatically changed in the other location. So it would not protect the things on your local hard drive if you were editing them over on the Google side. It would change them as soon as you changed them on the Google side. And I'll be honest,
it would change it everywhere, is
yes,
what you mean?
Because it's a true synchronization. It's not a backup. So I would not try to use it as a backup ever, even though they used to call it, and maybe that's why they changed the name, because people didn't like that. But yeah, it's just, and I personally would not want to use the Google online Google Drive file structure to organize things. I'm still a fan of using the Windows File Explorer or File Manager or whatever they're calling it this week, because it's what everybody's kind of used to. And the Google structure is a little different in that it's not a true file system. So I would not rely on as a backup, and I would not use the Google side as a management structure.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, no problem.
Can I add a comment to what Jack was talking about?
Absolutely.
You can tell Google Drive, the app, the desktop app, to synchronize other folders other than the dedicated Google Drive folder on your computer. You can tell it to synchronize documents, pictures, download, whatever you please, if that's what you are after. Again, like Dale was saying, it's not a backup. It's just synchronizing, meaning that if you delete it on your computer, it will get deleted on Google Drive. Okay, but you can tell Google Drive app to synchronize other folders if that's what you want to do. So I just want to clarify that.
Okay. Yeah,
Do-
thank you.
Do we have any more questions or comments about Google Drive? Now's your opportunity to delve into it a little bit more so you can start using it.
Hey, Judy, I just thought of one thing that I need to let people know about. It's something I actually just discovered last night. So I did not have time to change my presentation. In Google Drive, let's say I go to, this is the micro account. I click on my drive, and you see this big information symbol over here called info. If you click on that, and you have two different things. You have details, which won't be anything for my drive, but activity is a very interesting tab, because if you want to, you can scroll through this, and this will take you all the way back to the beginning of your use of Google Drive. Every change you have made in Google Drive will be registered here. And as you can see, I'm moving backwards. I'm back to 2017 now. I think I'm going to get back to about 2015, as I recall. But if you want to find out what has changed in your My Drive, it'll tell you exactly what you've done here by date. So I don't know if anybody's aware of that, but it's really handy if you have more than one person authorized to access your Google Drive and something disappears and you didn't do it. So you can come in here and you can say, hey, wait a minute, on December 7th, 2015, these items were uploaded. And so on and so forth. So, and I didn't realize it was even there, to be honest with you.
I wonder if there's that feature in the YouTube so that Annette can find out maybe who changed her video.
Oh, that's possible, yeah. But yeah,
Okay.
you can even see where I shared somebody and who I shared it with and what their permissions were.
Ah, clever.
So all the way back in 2015. So I didn't realize that till last night.
Will you show us the steps to get there again?
Yeah, you just click on My Drive and click on the I for details. And then details is on the left, which will not be there for My Drive because My Drive is a root directory, but activity is the one you want. So, and you can do the same thing if I recall correctly. Let me double check. You can do the same thing for individual folders. So you can see what's been done. Like today, we did something to this particular folder today.
Ah, clever.
Yeah, I didn't even know it was there.
I have a question. I have multiple Google accounts. I would just like to log out of one account, but it signs me out of all of them. Is there some kind of workaround so that doesn't happen? That also drives me crazy.
I'm not sure what you mean by signing out of just one.
When you want, well, say you have, like I do, a gazillion Gmail accounts open, and we're no longer doing the digital photo contest. So I'm finished with that. I never want to get another email to that account. And so I just want to sign out of that one account. Signs me out. This isn't my question, but I'm glad it happens to somebody else, but it signs me out of everything.
Yeah, I'm not really sure. I've got 4 different Gmail accounts signed in here.
Yeah. When I have that open, I have to just close the tab out.
Well, let's see. Let's say I want to sign out of this account right here. Well, let's sign out of this one. Yeah, you're right. It's either sign out of all.
Yeah,
Yep.
just close
It
out
won't-
the tab.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're right. The only way you can do it, it looks like, is close out that tab.
I find that a huge failing.
Yeah, Google, well, used to, you could not open multiple Google accounts at the same time in the same browser.
Oh, what year was that? That's back in the dark age.
It's been a while, yeah.
If I delete something on Google Drive, does it delete it on my hard drive?
If you're synchronizing those items, yes.
And my question always is, if you delete it off your computer, why do you want it to stay on your cloud or vice versa?
Yeah, if some people are trying to save space, that's a possibility, and I don't know, does anybody, maybe Pierre knows, if the backup and sync, or the Google Drive as they call it now, will allow you to store files only in the cloud? Somebody said yes.
Bill James can answer that. I would think. I have another question. Is there a size limit on the individual files that are moved to Google Drive? I'm pretty sure I've had an issue with that for Microsoft ISO files over 5 gigs.
I don't know.
Hmm.
I'm going to Google it.
And Judy, I didn't catch all that question before you went to the next question.
Okay.
We were talking about signing out of.
Something after that.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry. Yeah.
Yeah.
Whether you can have a file stay in Google Drive if it's not on your home drive.
So the question,
If it's uploaded to the cloud, then it'll be in the cloud. It won't be on your hard drive.
Well, I think they're talking about if they have what used to be called backup and sync installed, and of one of those files, is there a way to tell it to store them only in the cloud and download as required?
I don't think I know the answer to that question, but I was going to show something just discovered.
You're muted, Bill.
yeah.
If you're finished, I can share my screen and we can just kind of look at that. And
Go ahead.
Okay, Bill, you're muted, so we can't hear you.
I'm
Okay.
let's see where it says storage here. And then up here is backups. And I have my phone, which I know that's being backed up. So in the event that when I get a new phone, I can just, all that information from my old phone will come from this backup. And then these are my other computers. This is a Chromebook. And so these are the only backups that I actually have. I don't have anything that looks like an actual backup, because these two items are both for Google devices. So,
And you will notice he has 2 terabytes of space that he pays for, correct? You're muted. Bill, you're muted.
Some of it was grandfathered and some of it I pay for.
Okay, thank you.
And,
These
and
are-
re- remember that we were told that sometimes when you pay for extra, you get extra features.
Yeah.
Cool.
But did you see those two backups that I had?
Yes.
Now I kind of use the only thing I really have backed up is my photos. They're all in Google Photos, so that's that backup. But primarily, the only thing that's actually backed up on Google Drive is my phone and the Chromebook.
Cool. Thank you. The Victoria Computer Club says, as a group, we use Google Docs to collaborate on docs. We do co-editing. So she says, do co-editors need Google accounts to edit or do comment? Over to you.
Or suggestions.
I don't know that answer to that question. I would assume you probably do.
Well, so I'm just wondering, because sometimes we use Microsoft formatted documents, which they seem to recognize the ways of doing suggestions and you know, if you're in the mode of suggesting, so that the secretary actually accepts or rejects the suggestion, which is a nice way not to take over a document from a secretary. You know, you got to respect their domains. So we use that quite a bit, but we always have a member who doesn't have a Google account or whose main account is a non-Google account, and who doesn't even necessarily look at their Google account. So we have to do a bunch of messaging and stuff like that. So I just don't know if it's necessary that they have a Google account.
Have you Googled that question?
No, I'm going to test it. It's easier for me just to test it and see.
Yeah.
Why can't they use the link?
Well, but that I'm not sure that the link gives them any commenting capability in the document itself. I don't know if do you use the share editing collaborative aspects of Google Docs?
No, I have not.
Okay, well, it's pretty good for
I've shared
organizations.
documents, but I've not collaborated.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
have, and it's way cool, and it beats emailing back and forth.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll test it and see what I get.
It's, I say, when you are planning a reunion or something like that, create the, possible dates on a Google Calendar and share it with, a cast of thousands that you're inviting and say, let me know if any of these dates work for you, and they can, put the information on the calendar, and that saves you sending 16,000 emails back and forth to people. And you
That with a link?
Google Calendar with people who don't have Gmail accounts. But to me, that would be much more efficient than back and forth emails and having to keep up lists. You've got it right there on your calendar.
It works really well for minutes, like if you got a meeting of a board or something like that, secretary types up the minutes, people can go in, they can make the suggested change. They aren't just typing in over top, which you can't even see if you just type over top. If they've got editing capability, you can't easily see the change. Whereas if they're making a suggestion, it goes in brackets, and then the secretary says yes or no, and it gets incorporated or not.
Okay, I just got through doing that partially with the Senior Center Advisory Council minutes. can other people see your suggestion when you are sharing the document with people who 6 people can make comments or
Yeah, I
suggestions?
think they can. And there's a pop-up that Google puts in there saying that when other people can see comments and stuff like that.
Okay, because that would be embarrassing for the secretary, you know, with all the mistakes I had. So that, scratch that.
Well,
out.
you got to live with that, you know.
You know, you got the personality of the person. And anyway, okay, so
Judy, one quick thing.
Yes.
Somebody asked earlier about a file size limit for
yes.
upload. It's 15 gigabytes.
Mhm.
So you could fill your entire Google Drive with one file.
Yeah.
Wonderful. And I get questions from people saying, it says I've used almost all of that 15 gigabytes, but you know, I don't have anything. And I remind them, every photo of all your grandkids or whoever that your kids have sent you, you look at them and go, oh my gosh, aren't those darling? They are so cute. And if you can't stand it, download it to your hard drive and delete the email, because all of those attachments go towards your 15 gig storage.
Right.
And people don't realize that. So, you know, grandparents have to make hard decisions of, you know, what they want to keep of their little darlings. I don't have any little darlings anymore, so that doesn't, you know, work for me, but it works. That people just don't get that. They keep everything. And as John has reminded me many times, I need to get rid of those 16,000 or more, like 30,000 emails. And by golly, I went to the bottom of the, like Dale showed you, the end of the line, so to speak. And I deleted a whole bunch of old stuff. Well, somebody asked a question and I had the information in one of those emails that I had deleted, because I also deleted them out of my trash folder.
That was too old of a question then.
You know, but anyway, so what the heck? Is there anything you should not delete from Google Drive? I guess if you delete something, it's not going to work. Maybe that's the rest of the question.
As far as I know, you can't delete any of their built-in folders and that sort of thing, if that's what they meant.
Yeah, it blows your mind when you go in and you want to create a folder and you go to labels. You go,
Well, I know, yeah.
okay, you know, but of course they had to be different. John Metcalf.
Hey, greetings. Somebody mentioned earlier about the file size limit for attachments on email. I believe most providers have like 30 megs. I have had occasions to send more than that. So one solution is to break it up into multiple emails. The other is, if you use a Gmail account, and I have one, you can send 40 megs, 50 megs, whatever. It goes up there and they forward the email message, but they do not forward the attachments. Instead, they store them and send a link with it so that the recipient can come up to Google and get it.
Right.
Thank you.
That's just one way around that particular problem.
Okay, any more Google Drive questions?
John
Yeah.
Sama.
John, you're on.
Okay, I do. I have some things that are shared and they're kind of old. They're not ones that I created. Can I delete them? Well, I don't want to delete them from whoever shared them with me. If I delete them locally, is that okay?
Should be, as far as I know, yeah.
In other words, it'll only take it away from, because I don't want to see it anymore.
Are you seeing them in the shared with me area?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, my presumption is those, unless you were given significant editor permission, but
Well,
I don't think it would cause any problems. Let me see here. I'm going to do one. I'm not afraid to break things,
right.
as many people have found out the hard way. So I removed it. One thing I've noticed, I removed it. It's not in my trash. So that tells me it just removed my shared connection to it.
That would be good. Because
Yes. So that would be my presumption. In fact, yeah, I just found that it's still in the original location. It did not leave.
thank you very much. That answers. Thank you.
Joel,
Yes, I just successfully defined 2 different Gmail accounts and mounted both of them on my Linux system and copied one folder from one to the other one. And also when looking at the activity, when I look at each one, all I have there is the fact that those files are up there. I don't actually have a local copy. So every time you click on a file that shows up in one of those folders, you can see that it has network activity to download it, which is probably why the copy works, because it's all local copying and then gets transmitted back up on the other side. I did find one caveat, though. Some of the files that I had created up there, I don't know how I created them, but they have 0 bytes in them, probably because I just wanted to see that they showed up. And it turns out it does not copy 0 byte files. I get error indications.
huh. Interesting.
Probably because of the fact that they're stored in a database in a totally different way.
Could be.
Yeah. Good to know that. I have a comment back to the YouTube presentation. And it's about the comments in settings. So click on comments and settings, then click on community, then defaults, then you control the comments on your channel. So that will be included in the follow-up email, because apparently those are the steps where you can control those crummy comments you may or may not get. And if Susan ever finds out how, you know, somebody could get into her account, change her video and upload it, I would appreciate it that she lets me know so I can let you guys know. That's because I think that's tacky. Any more questions on anything? Going, almost gone. Hey, I do have to say one comment. I'm 35 miles northwest of Los Angeles in a valley. We are expecting snow. Huh.
And the people in the upper northwest, upper west and Midwest are saying, you don't know what snow is. You don't have a blizzard warning going on.
We got this kind of stuff years ago. A fireman husband, I live on a steep hill. He parked his truck down at the bottom of the hill to make sure that if we did get snow, he wasn't about to slide down our street to the bottom. And we didn't, but he wanted to make sure that he could get to work. So over to you, my dear, and walk us up.
Thank you so much for attending. That's it for February. No more Wednesday workshops in February. We go into March. Amazing. 2 months into the new year already. As we said, don't look for your follow-up messages in the next day or two. But Judy's got a lot of work to put together to get that ready. But we'll be back next month. And next month, everybody should be able to answer this question. What is March?
I know.
Backup month, National
Yes.
Backup Month. So a lot of our workshops next month are going to have the flavor of backups. So come learn about backups and share with us about backing up. So we'll see everybody in March. And those people who are in the snow area, please be careful, stay warm, stay safe. Goodbye, all.